Welcome to All the Best. UNL chemistry faculty tell their stories. An interview series with retired and former faculty from the chemistry department at the University of Nebraska Lincoln. For undergraduate and graduate students, listening to these stories will help you understand what motivates the professors who are teaching your courses and how to find a research position in their labs. For potential faculty, listening to these stories can help you understand the power structure of a department, including how to obtain access to specialized instrumentation and how teaching assignments are made. For the broader public, these stories provide a perspective on one small corner of our vastly interesting world. Since retired and former faculty have experiences that reach back more than a century, the series will provide a personal view how the department's history evolved. It is my pleasure to introduce today's interviewee, Dr. George Sturgeon. He was a chemistry professor at the University of Nebraska Lincoln for 39 years, from 1964 to 2003. After I provide a quick summary of his life and career, George will tell us about his time at UNL, starting with his 15 years as the vice chair. I like to say that multiple chairs served under him. George was born in Grand Forks, North Dakota. Something in his youth must have sparked an interest in chemistry because he earned a bachelor's in that subject from the University of North Dakota in Grand Forks. Then he traveled 870 miles east to Michigan State University in East Lansing, where he earned his doctorate. Immediately after graduating, he joined the University of Nebraska Lincoln in 1964 as an assistant professor, but was soon promoted to associate professor. His lab studied metal fluoride compounds, including xenon difluoride. With that, I want to welcome George to the interview.
Thank you.
Where were you born?
I was born in Sioux Falls, South Dakota.
Oh,
And I was born there because my father was teaching in a small town outside of Sioux Falls. So I was born in a hospital, which is now a Sanford Hospital in South Dakota.
Okay.
So you wanted to start
Yep.
talking?
Well, let's go to these questions here. Tell me about your impressions of the UNL campus when you saw it for the very first time, and then what are your thoughts about the campus now?
Well, the campus as a whole was fairly impressive to me, although it was, of course, at that time divided into two parts, the so-called East Campus and the City Campus. The City Campus had some remnants of the original campus. There were still some buildings, the old geography building and the old women's PE building that were still standing there when I arrived. And some other building geography, it was called the geography building that went down after I came to make room eventually for Hamilton Hall. I had the impression that I might be going through sort of deja vu all over again, because at the University of North Dakota, I was a student, and after having had a really good high school chemistry teacher, I naturally went into chemistry and enjoyed the chemistry classes there. But it was a fairly old building. All the buildings at that era were pretty old. And they were talking about a new building. And sure enough, after I graduated, they built a new chemistry building. Likewise, when I left Michigan State with my doctor's degree, they were already constructing a new chemistry building there. So I was rather pleased when I came to Nebraska, and they were already talking about needing a new chemistry building. Avery Hall, which is still standing, was a very well-built building, but it was outdated. The ventilation system was terrible. It was really dangerous. They had students, young people especially, working in those laboratories without adequate hoods, without adequate fire protection, without adequate fire escapes, etc. And so they knew they had to have a new building. I kept thinking, well, maybe I'm cursed. I'll never see the new building, but I did see the new Hamilton Hall. The old campus was quite impressive in the sense that it reflected the dream of the original university builders in terms of having a kind of basically a square block and there were still some remnants of some fencing. Most of the metal fencing had been moved from the campus and moved out to Wyoka Cemetery, where some of it still stands, I think.
Yeah.
Um, and then they had brought in some columns, which were actually one time in front of a park on the south side of Oak Street, I believe, at about what the 29th or 30th Street or something like that, somewhere near to Antelope Creek. And I don't know why those columns that were just determined to be superfluous. They might have actually been columns that were in front of a railroad station at one point.
Mm.
But anyway, however they got to be there near the park where Lincoln had his swimming pool and stuff, those columns got moved to the north edge of the city campus.
Mm.
So it had some semblance of a sort of a classical feel about it. There was also a little bit of maybe some remnant of fence around that columns area. That was a favorite trysting spot for young people, I think.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And they had at that time fairly new already at that time fairly new Mueller Tower for Carillon, and it was not active as a Carillon at the time. I'm not sure if it even is now. But I was familiar because they had a wonderful Carillon Tower at Michigan State.
Mm-hmm.
And that played every noon. And you could hear that beautiful music when you went walking across campus to the Union to have lunch. And I think I was disappointed that the Mueller Tower was only a tower, not musical.
Mm-hmm.
There was hints of the World War II military not concepts, but military barracks type housing to the north of Love Library on what's now an esplanade of sorts, because that area, including the library itself, had been used for military housing during World War II. And the library itself, Love Library, did have a little bit of appearance of an abandoned barracks as they were moving books in and putting in new shelving and stuff. There were still some institutional look that looked even more institutional than a public school in terms of the restrooms and that sort of thing. What I remember about Lincoln when I arrived was it was just damn hot. The office I was assigned was the converted, they were very short of space because the building wasn't adequate. So I was assigned a space which was the former resting area outside the women's restroom. And
what floor? What floor?
On I guess it was the third floor of Avery.
Okay.
I had a window which was the sashes would go up or down, and so I could open the sash and let hot air out of the office. But right outside the window was the tarred roof of the auditorium lecture hall. So it was a very hot office, and I remember that. And I did not have a good place to stay either. So even going to my apartment that I rented, it was not much relief. So I kept thinking it was just too dang hot in Lincoln, Nebraska. And I thought, well, if and when I ever have an opportunity to change jobs to some other location, I will not consider a North Dakota boy does not want to go any further south and no further east than Lincoln, Nebraska, because that's just too damn hot already. I think that's about all I can think about my first impression.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Of course, there was lots of wind out in the prairie, and I was used to that. But wasn't used to all the loose dust.
Mm.
So when had we were doing a lot of hiring soon after I mean, I was just the first of several. Chris Maheda and George Vitter were hired. All three of us were hired the same year, I think.
Yeah.
And then we did some hiring after that too, pretty regularly. When you'd interview people, they'd come to visit and so forth, and it was almost embarrassing to again take them out to lunch, walk over to the student union, and you have to go through this practical dust storm
Mm.
blowing paper cartons and that kind of stuff just blowing around. The campus was not anywhere near as well kept and beautified as it is now.
Mm. I think those military buildings were taken down in 65 or 66. So probably shortly after you
Mhm.
came.
Yeah. And then they built the well, what is the name of that complex that I can't say that right across from Love? Not before you got to Love.
Anderson? Anderson?
No, it
No,
was
not Anderson.
part of it. It was a part of a dormitory system that the university owned and rented, and they used it for things like athletes. They had a wing, and foreign students were there.
Right.
I want to say Armstrong, but that wasn't it either. And then of course, because we were so short of space and we needed space for lecturing and so forth, I, being one of the newbies, was lucky enough to be assigned to teach classes over in the 501 building, which is basically the old former Hill hatchery factory for producing eggs, I guess. And it was just a flat floor, some partitioning off, and just a flat platform of maybe half of a foot raised to get me above the heads of the rest of the classroom in there. That was a pretty lousy place, and it's mobile chalkboards. But no one complained about that, I guess, except me. So I wasn't the only one. They even taught some organic classes over there.
So after you were hired, a bunch of other people were hired before moving into Hamilton Hall. Did you have to double up in your office?
No, I never had to share an office.
Must have been a very small office.
Well, yes, it was. As I say, it was just the anteroom for ladies and girls who were having fainting spills or whatever before they went into the restroom.
All right, let us jump into your time as the vice chair, and I wonder what you remember about being selected to become the vice chair.
Well, when Jerry Mizels moved from being chairman to over to the dean's office. I don't know what his role was. It was maybe assistant dean, associate dean, or something like that. He fingered Reuben Rieke to be chairman, and I don't think Reuben Rieke, at the time at least, had any ambitions in that direction particularly. He was thoroughly wrapped up in his own research program. So he needed some people to help him do the kind of things that some chairmen would do kind of with their left hand and on spare time. There was some fooling around there. I think maybe Jim Carr was served as vice chairman for a brief spell, but then David Brooks, who had been doing a fairly bang-up job in running the freshman chemistry program, tried to pull a power play, give me some authority and some influence that the chairman Rieke did not want to give up. And it was a threat that Brooks would either get these authorities or they flexibility to do what he wanted to do,
Mm-hmm.
or he would leave and go and join the teachers college.
Mm-hmm.
And Reuben refused, and that's what Dave Brooks did.
Oh, I see.
So then he suddenly had to find some way to run the freshman chemistry program,
Mm.
which for organic chemists was a sideline. It was a mere feeder program to get rid of most of the students so that they only have bright students coming into the organic classes. And so Jim Carr moved over to take the director of general chemistry position, and I moved in to be vice chairman. And Jim and I pretty much worked together to try to duplicate or maintain or sustain the program that Dave Brooks had gotten going pretty well.
But then Riki was not the chair for that long, and then somebody took over for 1 year, I think.
Well,
was it Craig?
Craig, no, it was Larry Parker's.
No, he was much
Craig.
later.
It was Craig.
Yeah.
And Craig put some pressure on the biochemist who there was on the staff there was a biochemist who had some sort of program, but didn't teach very much and no longer had any students who were doing very much. But he refused to pick up some of the load of teaching freshman chemistry.
Is it Johnston?
Huh?
Bob Johnston?
Bob Johnston. So,
okay.
And so Johnston finally quit when threatened with the assignment of teaching freshman chemistry because he really thought it was beneath him. And so that was, I think, what one of Craig Eckart's accomplishments was to cut away that section, because there was also underlying competition constantly going on between East Campus biochemistry people and City Campus biochemistry people, and that history goes back longer than I know. I don't know where that. At one time, I'm sure there was only one biochemistry program when Hamilton, who was considered himself and was, I think, a pretty big honcho around. He ran not only the chemistry department, but the graduate program of the whole university.
For years.
Yes. And chemical engineering and chemistry and biochemistry were all under his purview at one point, as I understand it. But of course, the East Campus people didn't like being under the City Campus administrator either, because they had their own focus and their own interests and their own responsibilities.
So I think Craig was the chair for 1 year, and then I believe Pill was hired. So Craig must have been somehow in charge of the search, or how did the search go?
Well, I was not involved in that.
Okay.
Yes, I was involved in that search.
I think Mike Gross was in charge of the committee to find the next chair.
Oh, that's when Myself came. Yes, Myself. That was Myself came after
Bill? No.
After Craig Eckert.
Oh, okay.
Didn't he?
I think it was around the same time.
I'm not sure of that anymore.
Yeah.
But
I think it was around this time.
Mike Gross is the one who hired Myself.
Oh, okay. And he also got Pilsen Song to agree to be the chair.
Yeah, and I don't know how we ever came across Pilsen Song, but Pilsen Song was ambitious, and I don't know how he realized that there were resources at Nebraska that he could really make use of very well, and some good students. to run his program because his program was his main focus also.
Right.
Uh, so a lot of the everyday administrative stuff of the department, he had less than top interest in.
So, but you and he seemed to me, when I came, were a great pair.
Well, I think we got along all right. Um, and he was certainly not he was not oppressive or exploitive in any way.
Mhm. Mhm.
I didn't think.
And that lasted 10 years. He was chair for 10 years, I think.
Could well be, yeah. But he was always off traveling a lot to conferences, to workshops that he would often send me to when they'd have a meeting of Midwest chemistry chairs of the old Big Eight or something like that. He'd send me.
Oh.
And of course, when I arrived at those meetings, I didn't really have the stature of a chairman, so I didn't get a lot of respect there. But I was there, and I did take notes and tried to find out what was going on. But the chairs weren't really telling me anything because I was a competitor. You know, departments in the area were competitors in a sense, especially for students.
Very much so.
So they weren't going to let me know anything that I didn't need to know. But I got to travel. I got to go to places like Oklahoma and Iowa and see those campuses that I had never seen before.
No, that sounds fun. And then Pill stepped down because he was frustrated. He couldn't hire any more faculty, right? There was a new dean. And then that's when Larry took over.
I guess.
And I don't know how many years you were the vice chair for Larry.
And Larry didn't stay terribly long.
Only 5 years.
Really?
Yeah.
That long?
Yeah.
Well, again, his focus was less on the department per se as a whole unit, but more on his own program. And I had so little program to focus on, but I had plenty of time to worry about the department as a whole.
Sure. So tell us some of the duties of a vice chair.
Well, for many years, even when Norman Cromwell was chairman, he talked me in very early on to do the assigning of teaching assistants to the various classes. And of course, that was very important because assistantship meant support for students who the faculty were worried about because they wanted to have their students supported. Ed Rack was a terrible example of that, or an extreme example of that. But also, well, who was the other biochemist? Was it Nabagupta?
Oh, Gupta, yeah.
Yeah. They would plead to have a really good, juicy, easy, not very time demanding assignment for their students to serve as TAs. But the faculty who were teaching the classes wanted TAs who were actually going to do something and be effective at teaching assistants. So that was a juggling job.
Absolutely.
And I was sort of more or less in charge of the other support staff, especially the shops and those kind of things. Secretaries they had a kind of a head secretary at all times who mostly managed the other secretarial staff and hirings and those kind of jobs.
How about admissions, students?
I didn't have anything to do with that.
Really? So, but planning ahead for the next year, how many sections you would need, how many lab sections?
Well, we got guidance of advanced enrollment. And so we knew pretty much what the enrollment was going to be and how many spaces, lab spaces and so forth we need. So we were pretty well tipped off on that, and we knew how many, and then we also had budget, how many teaching assistants we could afford to hire and so forth. And then there was always also a jostling of, well, are we going to have enough organic classes for all the students who want to enroll, or are we going to have enough professors to teach all those organic classes? And so who's going to do, and who gets the advanced organic class, and who gets the beginning organic classes? Some of that they worked out in the divisions, the organic people, and of course the senior people in each division would have the most weight and most influence on those decisions. And in the inorganic group, which was much smaller, there weren't that many inorganic classes to teach. Physical had a little more, but physical and organic was mostly a question of, well, who gets the dirty end of the stick and has to teach a freshman class? How can you? And Mike Gross was quite good at that in trying to make sure that the incoming new, younger analytical faculty did not get stuck doing the freshman. He tried to get them into good classes with more advanced students and some decent teaching assistants and so forth, so they could launch their own research programs and so forth. And Mike was very good at that.
And then let's see what else. So faculty meetings, did you always take the minutes?
I guess, yes. I took minutes, and I was eventually I was sort of stuck with the job of trying to prepare an agenda, but I usually didn't know what the agenda was going to be until the last minute. So I tried to put together some of an agenda, but then especially Phil Songwood at the last minute just bring things up. Just on top of his head. And so I never knew quite what to expect myself.
Okay. So anything else about the vice chair, being the vice chair? What are your thoughts today about what you experienced over those many, many years?
Well, I really enjoyed it for the most part, and I do think that I developed a decent personal interaction with some of the support staff, like the machinist, the glassblower, those kind of people who were very critical for people who were trying to do research. The glassblower became less and less important because people were doing less and less vacuum line stuff, but that's what they were doing when I came. And machinists became more and more important as the people were doing these high vacuum things, and that's what. So there was a shifting involved there, but there was still support staff I needed, and there were times, of course, the budgets were cut, and then we had to get machine work done in the physics department, and they had to come to us to get glass work done.
How about the electronic shop? Wasn't that born during this time?
That was important, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, didn't it start during the 70s, I think, or maybe it was even 80?
Yeah,
I'm not sure.
70s, yeah. And Walt was pretty good he had a PhD in physics, and so he was pretty good, and he kept up pretty well with what the developments were, and there certainly were a lot of developments, the microcircuits and that sort of stuff.
Yeah. So then let's go back to the very beginning of your time at UNL. And how did you find out about the job, and how were you hired?
I think they advertised the job in CNE News.
Okay.
And when I came, I was interviewed by the chairman who was predecessor to Norm Cromwell, a physical chemist who retired before I actually came in arts and sciences.
Right. Van der Zee. No.
Washburn.
Okay, there we go.
And Washburn was the chairman when I interviewed. I don't know who sent me the offer, but when I arrived to go to work, Cromwell was in the chairman's office.
Okay.
And Cromwell was certainly a go-getter.
Washburn died.
Yeah, he died after I arrived.
Okay.
But he had a health problems, and so he resigned.
Yeah. Okay.
From the faculty entirely, certainly from the chairmanship.
Yeah. No, the whole thing. Yeah. So, but the Norm was there to greet everyone.
Yeah. and he was a maneuverer and a mover and a shaker.
Yep.
He Of course, he had some sort of a connection with the medical school for a while.
Mhm. He was the second director of the Epley Cancer Institute.
because he had done some of the chemicals he worked with were relevant to cancer treatment or something like that.
Yeah. Okay, so then what was your initial research area? I was surprised to see xenon difluoride in there, but what was your focus?
Well, I was trained as a high temperature thermodynamics researcher, and when I came, Norm Cromwell did manage to provide me with a uh, transformer oven to do microwave remote heating to get up into the 1,000 degrees temperature. And my training was to study chemical reactions and especially thermodynamics in those high temperatures, which required a quartz vacuum container and water cooling and so on. But I couldn't get any money from anybody. At that time, the Atomic Energy Commission had gone out of favor because no one was interested in atomic energy anymore.
Right.
They dropped the bomb and signed all these treaties and no more. And then I had been doing some rare earth as well as some transuranium. I did some transuranium studies in the form of fluorides when I was out of Los Alamos doing summer staff stuff.
Oh, okay.
And that's where I get into fluorine chemistry. So I tried to do some combinations then of ordinary fluoride salts like potassium fluoride and something like xenon difluoride to make a combination. That didn't ever. I did make one. I did.
Yeah.
One of my students made some xenon difluoride, but we never got it to mix together.
Now that sounds dangerous to me, using fluorides at high temperatures and presumably high pressures.
Well, yeah, not well, supposedly those were not thousands of degrees temperature. I was doing thermodynamics at thousands of degrees centigrade, but it wasn't trying to do fluorine chemistry in quartz tubes or metal tubes, probably metal tubes in circular oven kind of thing. With plumbing. So I got to be a pretty good plumber. Platinum containers.
Oh, wow.
That would be immune to the fluorine.
Wow. You're very expensive.
Yeah, and again, but no funding.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about some of your graduate students. I've got a list of the 5 who got degrees with you. I don't know if you want to take a look at their names here, but James Arsham, William Lawrence, Gary Healy, Donald Novotny, and Richard Langley.
Yeah. Well, yeah, Rich Langley had come from North Dakota, and he married the daughter of one of my North Dakota professors. Oh. And he ended up writing a book, Chemistry for Dummies, kind of.
Oh, really? Yeah. Well, now listen to his thesis title, Synthesis and Properties of Fluoride Garnets. Now that sounds interesting, George.
Well, he did manage to synthesize some
mineral
type things that had the structure of garnets. And he was amateur rock hound kind of person.
wow.
So he knew about natural
Oh, yeah.
gems and that sort of thing and
Mhm.
their structures.
Oh, wow.
And so his 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 whole thesis was drawing an analogy between the natural garnets and these artificial ones that have
Synthetic ones, yeah.
uranium fluoride.
Wow.
Bill Lawrence disappeared.
Oh.
And even his former roommates were asking whatever happened to Bill.
Oh. He's the xenon difluoride guy.
Yeah, I think he actually made the xenon difluoride, but didn't do anything with it. Well, that was a problem. They had to get rid of it.
Is that right?
Well, yeah, because it's explosive.
Oh, no. And then we've got a spectroscopic study of the hexafluoronickelate anion.
Yeah, he was just trying to study the infrared vibrational spectra of that particular ion. And it wasn't terribly exciting. It wasn't terribly new or creative, but he did find analogies. So that, he only got a master's degree, right?
Right. He only got a master's, yeah.
Yeah, and now Don Avant, he worked for Goodyear Rubber.
Oh, okay.
Um,
We had a number of students who went to Goodyear.
and he worked at Goodyear when he was a student.
Oh, I see. And then James Arsham.
Jim Arsham, but he had made good friends with Edna Bashara, the wife of electrical engineer Professor Bashara, Nick Bashara, who was doing the chemistry library job when we had a chemistry library job over in Avery. And she she hired him to work as her student assistant in the chemistry library for a while. Then he went to Colorado and got a advanced degree in library science.
Oh, wow.
And from there he went to Washington, D.C. Well, he had several jobs, I think, but he ended up working for the Library of Congress in D.C.
Oh, wow.
But not more in the archival part of the library than any kind of researcher.
So I also have looked up your papers, and one that I found is your most cited. So let's talk about that. That is with Langley, Rich Langley.
Oh, really?
Lattice parameters and ionic radii of the oxide and fluoride garnets in the Journal of Solid State Chemistry. So what do you remember about that paper?
Not very much. Well, when I was still doing boride stuff, one of our premises of one of my papers for my PhD and following that was this particular structure of the hexaborides was too rigid to accommodate certain sizes of rare earth metal ions. And so you go across the periodic table with the lanthanum and sodium and all that. I used to be able to name them all right in order from fast. I probably still can if I put my mind to it. But because as you go across from left to right on the periodic table, the atomic number is getting bigger and bigger and bigger, which means the nuclear charge is getting bigger and bigger and bigger. So the electron cloud is shrinking smaller. So the effective size of that ion is getting smaller and smaller. And so the question is, if it gets too small, it rattles around in this lattice and won't be stable anymore. So that was the premise of that idea that I published with Ike and my research director. Well, we thought maybe there was something of the same sort of thing going on with you could find out about sizes of ions or relate
Ah.
sizes of ions to what you were measuring for the lattice of
Mm.
the crystal lattice of the fluorides you were looking at.
So how did you measure the radii?
Well, we did not directly measure the radii, but we knew the crystal structure and we
Okay.
knew how much space there was.
So you made crystals.
Mhm.
Okay.
And used X-ray Potter planners.
Mhm.
And if you knew if you knew the space group of the crystal structure,
Mhm.
then you knew how much space there was.
Mhm.
And if the ion is so small and shrunken in size, then its electron cloud doesn't make good contact with the electron clouds of the whole structure,
Mhm.
the whole big framework. So,
Mhm. So yeah, as a biochemist, it's either in solution or even if it's a crystal, there's a lot of water in it, but you guys don't have any water.
no, not in those. I mean, there is water in some inorganic crystals, but
Let's see. Tell us about any editorships or books that you helped write.
no, I was not
Okay.
I was not a co-author. I helped Henry Holtzclaw when he was
Oh.
writing freshman chemistry books.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Good. Good. Yeah, those went through a lot of editions. I think we talked a little bit about the techniques and instruments. So were they common use instruments?
For the most part,
Yeah.
yeah. Mostly powder diffraction cameras to do X-ray patterns.
And so you were in a small room on the third floor. Were the other inorganic chemists on the same floor? Was the instrumentation on the third floor?
Um,
Or did you have to go all over the place?
no, it was all pretty much there. I didn't have that much, and there was mostly all there.
Mhm. Was it a room used for undergraduate inorganic chemistry, or was it dedicated to
No,
research?
it was for grad students.
Grad students, okay.
Host class students. There were a few Harris students up there.
Mm.
And then we had to go down, our students had to go down to the basement to the physical chemistry laboratories now and then for things like ultraviolet spectra or infrared spectra, or even over some other building, physics or something like that, when Marina Wheeler was in charge of the instrumentation lab.
Let's see. Let's move on to other career activities, societies. And I know that the American Chemical Society Nebraska section was pretty active. I don't know how active you were in that. And then were there conferences that you went to regularly? And was there a particular meeting that you remember the most?
Well, I remember the one where I got a contact to go on my first sabbatical.
Oh, wow.
Paid the registration. Some academic from some
From a reputable
I was tempted at the
institution.
time to write to his dean. His or I think it was a he.
Yeah.
But that was my only contact with anything official with the American Chemical Society. I quit the society when they have a rule that when you've been a member for so many years, you can still, you don't have to pay any more dues, but you still get chemical and engineering news. And they refused to count the years that I was a student member as an undergraduate in North Dakota. They wouldn't count those as being members. So I said, well, all right, the hell with you. And so I don't pay membership to the American Chemical Society anymore. And I don't get CD News anymore. I used to enjoy CD News. Some of their news squibs are kind of cute and interesting.
Well, let me ask you about Phi Lambda Upsilon, PLU.
Mm-hmm.
Have they always done the Christmas party and the summer picnic, or is that a new development? I mean,
Well,
what else did they do besides those?
They did it all the time when I was there.
Okay. So they've always done those.
And they used to do a hell of a good job sometimes of a spoof at the Christmas party. They made fun of faculty pretty outrageously.
I have some photos from a picnic in 1940,
Mm,
and I always assumed it was at a PLU picnic.
probably.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, there was a lot more socialization of that type. I think maybe partly because Norm Cromwell's wife, Grace, was
Mhm.
fairly social,
Yeah.
and she would invite people over to their home
Mm.
fairly often for a nice little dinner party,
Mm.
or maybe just for cocktails or something like that.
Mm.
Um, and Norm used to put out a Christmas letter, a chairman's Christmas letter to graduates,
Right.
former students,
Right.
and that went back to the time of uh, Cliff Hamilton.
Mhm.
Hamilton apparently developed a very close relationship with some of his students who apparently did a very good work with him that helped Hamilton keep getting these nice little grants from corporate outfits that helped him with his stature and performance
Mhm.
at the university. So Cliff would send out these Christmas letters from Uncle Cliff,
Right.
and they were very valued. But I was still in the vice chair's office when they had a reunion one time, and a lot of Hamilton students came back.
I think it was
And
86.
that was a very nice reunion, and some of those graduates who worked with Hamilton were getting pretty long in the tooth.
Mhm.
Uh, but they had a lot of good reminiscences of the satisfaction and pleasure they had as during the time they were students with
Mhm.
Cliff Hamilton.
Mhm.
Norm tried to do some of that, but not a lot. He just sort of didn't maintain that very much. And by the time I got down to Henry Baumgarten, Henry wasn't about to bother with folderol like that. And
Okay. Did you take a sabbatical? I think we just heard you did. And then what did you do?
my first sabbatical, I went to the University of Bordeaux.
Oh.
There was a remarkable man there. Um, his name is Paul Hagenmüller. It's a very Germanic sounding name. And he was from a border area between Germany and France. And he spoke German, I think, as well as France. He also was a prisoner during World War II,
Mm.
housed with a bunch of Russians. So he
Mm.
picked up Russian. And as a scientist, he had a pretty good acquaintance with English, not just reading, but also speaking. So he did a lot of, especially between the Russians and the French, trying to promote interactions. He had a very good, smart student from Russia working in his laboratory when I was there. Uh, and when I have a paper with his name on it.
I didn't have them all on here.
And when when I was there as a visiting American, a lot of people would come to me with drafts of papers and stuff and
Oh.
ask me to read them and proof them and suggest, and
Yeah.
I was very glad to do it.
Yeah.
But one time I had a draft of the paper that ended up getting published. I took it to Hagenmüller. He corrected my English.
Oh, wow.
That was embarrassing. So that was my first sabbatical. I made a very good impression. I chose to go to France because Norma was a French teacher, and we had small children.
Mm.
Joel was only 2, Nessa was 4, and I knew we had to have my wife was going to have to deal with children,
Mhm.
and the postman and the gas company and the landlady and all that kind of stuff. And so I wasn't able to do any of that. Then my second sabbatical, I went to Saragossa in Aragon,
Mm.
Spain. And I did that because, well, I got suggested that they would give me some financial support, which they did.
Mm.
And because I was interested in learning Spanish, and then my last sabbatical, I went to Besançon, France, which is halfway along the line from Paris to Basel.
Okay.
Basel, they say in France. Um, that was a very good experience. It was a strange place we were living. The French department was running a foreign experience for French students over there.
Mm.
So a lot of them had been over there and they'd recommended a place to stay and so forth. Well, it turned out not to be all that great because the landlord, he couldn't understand that I couldn't understand him because it's like typical Americans. They can't understand that someone doesn't speak their language,
Right.
Well, so it was a good experience too. But I didn't get anything done worthwhile in terms of science. I was just really there to try to improve my French.
Mm-hmm.
There was, who was the guy? F. Albert Cotton,
Ah.
a famous inorganic chemist with whom Victor Day had done a postdoc or something like that.
Down in Texas.
I knew him very well. Well, Cotton moved to Texas, yeah.
I see.
I heard Cotton give a talk in France. I can't say the name of the city in France, a university town in France, but I can't say the name of it. And a bunch of students and faculty drove there to hear Cotton speak.
That'd be fun.
He gave his speech in flawless French about his current research. Blew me away. Wow. So he was no dummy. There's no question about it.
So then let's move on to service here. We covered being a vice chair, but what other service contributions did you make and I remember the most?
One of the things I did was try to get involved in visiting Mexico, especially, and we're trying to interest students in coming to Nebraska for their graduate research, graduate degrees. And I had some success in that, I think, and I don't think anybody much in the faculty thought that was a good use of my time. But they were glad to have some students.
Well, I recall it was at least 2, right? How many students do you remember?
Well, I have no idea how many there were.
Yeah.
At the same time, I got involved with a lot of the Iranian students who were here. Maybe not exactly the same time, but they overlap some. But I still correspond with one of the students, one of Jody Redepenning's students. Good work ethic and a good personality, and he still works in Boston, sometimes for Harvard, sometimes for Clark University as a part-time temporary laboratory organizer, equipment manager, fairly menial job, I suppose. But he's got his green card, he's married to an American, has a youngster and so forth. So that was a part of my life, and we did do a lot of traveling. It was somebody else who was actually mostly involved in this, but I was sort of an assistant. We would go to chemistry conferences and put up a table with the University of Nebraska, and we would gather old, discarded books. Sometimes we get some new books that people donated from faculty. I put out a cry for donations, but we would go with the great big boxes of books to give away. And when people found out we were giving books away, they'd come to our booth. and we could give away other information. And we'd have a drawing, draw a number, and if they got the right number, they get a book.
How about the REU, the research experience for undergraduates? Weren't you part of the very first one that we got?
I'm not sure if it was the very first one, but
Yeah.
and that was those are students mostly from France.
Oh, they were.
Yeah.
Oh,
And one of them worked for Dave.
oh. Berkowitz?
No, the analytiker. The
H?
yeah, Dave H. One of them worked for Dave and ended up marrying somebody in the university, student or something. I'm not sure one of Dave's students, but anyway, as far as I know, she still lives in Lincoln. But so these students came over from France, and I had recruited faculty in physics and chemistry.
I think it was the first one.
To take,
It was the first REU.
yeah, the first story,
Yeah.
to take students and work with them in their lab. And for the most part, the faculty were not terribly happy. There was obviously these are foreign students. They were not necessarily comfortable with English. Although some students or foreign students are absolutely astonishing. But anyway, I know that Dave Selmeyer in physics was pretty much unhappy with any progress he made with a student he had. But anyway, so we had some in physics and in chemistry, and that was the first REU, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. A long time ago. Any other service you want to talk about? Any university committees you were on that were memorable?
No, I don't think I want to. I don't think I want to cite anything more.
Holding your tongue, George. I don't believe it. What courses did you teach most often?
Well, I taught a hell of a lot of freshman chemistry 101, 102, or 110, 12, whatever, 111, I don't know. I did like teaching the advanced inorganic first year grad student inorganic class, but that didn't even get taught all that often because there weren't that many students to demand it.
So let's talk about your youth. Tell us about where you grew up and what was it like in your childhood?
Well, I grew up in North Dakota. My father was a teacher and coach in a small town outside of Sioux Falls where I was born in South Dakota. And then he took another job back in the town where my mother grew up in North Dakota, Jamestown on the James River, which runs into the Missouri up at Yankton. And so I grew up along that river, just half a block away from that river, and almost drowned one year. But I went through the school system there, starting from first grade, walking through snow with the streets not cleared and walks not cleared early in the mornings, and heavy clothing, lots of layers, heavy clothing, boots all the time. But it was a good. Then I had my mother's family. She had a bunch of older sisters, and they had mostly married farmers in the area. So we spent a lot of time visiting farms. So I got some exposure to rural life there. I knew about how to move a sliding door on a barn. Knew how to find the steps that were just slats hammered onto the I don't know what you call them, the upright beams of the
Posts,
barn.
yeah.
You climbed up those to get to the hayloft, and the hayloft was a wonderful place to play, unless you fell down the hole. Because you could jump off this and that and land in the hay, and you could dig holes in the hay, and you could lose your mittens in the hay.
And there's all kinds of animals
Oh, yes. But they didn't have a lot of animals because they were the farmer visited mostly. Most of them they originally had been dairy.
Mm.
So they had dairy cattle, dairy cows, and the dairy herds. I remember mostly also had a bull, and that was something you had to watch out for, stay away from. So I learned that. And chickens running around all over the place. The only fowl they have are chickens. Yeah, they had turkeys someplace. Uh, so gathering eggs and doing those kind of things. It was fun with something. It wasn't so much fun. It was just interesting and fascinating to experience. And hauling food out to the farm field to fields where workers were doing various kinds of work. I drove a team of horses once to rake hay.
Oh,
Uh, so that was a formative experience, but
yeah.
I enjoyed it. I enjoy remembering that. Yeah.
So I didn't get a sense there of how you ended up choosing chemistry or science.
I had a really great teacher in high school,
Okay.
and because we moved from one town to another just as I started my senior high school year. So I ended up starting a senior year in high school out of sync with what the plan usually was. So while chemistry was usually taught to juniors, I think I got that right.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. And
Anyway.
physics is seniors.
yes.
Yeah.
But I was a senior and hadn't had chemistry, so I took the junior chemistry class, and I didn't ever take the physics class.
Oh.
But I had a really good teacher for the chemistry class. And so when I went to the University of North Dakota and took freshman chemistry, it was a piece of cake. But I had a really good professor. He was the chairman of the department and also teaching freshman chemistry, which would be unheard of around here. He picked out some students he saw quickly were more than usual advancement in terms of their progress on the science. So he had a special class that we just sat around and talked chemistry instead of going to a lecture.
Wow.
He also authored a book, but I'm not sure it was a very popular book, but he did. So he was interested in education. Anyway, that was a good experience. But when I was a freshman in college, I had the chairman of the physics department for my physics class.
Oh, wow.
I had the chairman of the English department for my English class.
Oh, wow.
I had the chairman of the chemistry department for my chemistry class. So I took German too, but I don't remember. It was not the chairman of the department.
Yeah. So you liked the University of North Dakota?
Yeah, I did. Well, I met some friends there too, and had some good times with them. But I did reasonably well. So I got admitted to a Big Ten school for grad school.
And then you went to grad school. How did you choose Michigan?
Not Michigan.
Not Michigan? Where'd you go?
Michigan State.
Michigan State. My mistake.
They're arch rivals. Well, that was just kind of luck of the draw, and they offered me a position. I applied several places, but they offered me a position, assistantship.
Yeah.
So I went there.
Good plan.
Yeah, and it was a good experience. I had a pretty good research director. Anyway, I think I got him promoted because we had some publications.
Okay.
He got some publications out of my work.
Oh, that's really good.
Yeah.
And then did you do a postdoc?
No.
No.
But I did. My best substitute for that was that I went to 2 summers. I went to work in the laboratory at Los Alamos.
Oh, okay.
And that was a talking point, at least, to excuse my not having a postdoc.
And so that was during your graduate work.
Yeah, while I was still a graduate student, and then when I finished my graduate, when I actually had graduated in June, I went and spent a summer again at Los Alamos before I came to Nebraska.
Mhm.
And that's not quite true. I was in Nebraska and dumped off a load of clothes and things with Henry Holtzclaw in his attic because I already had the job offer and had accepted.
Mm.
So I left Los Alamos and came here and started my job in the fall.
I see. Well, that's crazy. So you wrote a paper as a graduate student. Was that your first one?
Mhm.
Yeah. And so um, tell me about that experience of writing your first paper.
Well, do you have the dates on it? Which was my first one?
Yeah, I didn't write it down. Yeah.
Yeah,
I don't remember what it was.
well, the ones at Los Alamos, that was kind of a factory there. They really had a big group, and uh, they were doing chemistry using isotopes of things like uranium and also other things like americium and other stuff that was being produced there.
Neptunium.
So nobody else had access to them.
Right. Yeah.
So they could do chemistry that nobody else could do.
Yeah.
So they were really cranking out stuff. Well, I just happened to have some success in making one particular uranium 5 compound, oxidation number 5 of the uranium.
Mhm.
And they basically wrote the paper, you know.
So how many
They put
authors?
my name on it.
How many authors?
1, 2,
How many?
3. I think. Yeah, because they did that to the groups tended to always put the senior member of the group on the paper, and then anybody else who worked on it in any way. And I was the low man on the totem pole. I was glad to have my name on it at all.
Sure. Sure.
And that was a wonderful experience in the sense that you could see how you could make progress if you got all kinds of money available.
Mhm.
I could go down to the stock room. I didn't have to go down to. I could call for a cab that would take me, 10, 15 blocks away to the big stock room.
Sure.
I could wander down the stock room with a big shopping basket and just take, I could use this, I could use that, I could use this,
What a sweet experience.
and put it in the basket, and then they'd charge it out, and then I'd go back, and
Yeah.
it all get delivered.
Wow.
Nobody, no questions asked. Nobody had to sign off on anything. I was a bachelor, and at the same year, same fall, Norma, who had graduated from Fort Hays State College
Okay.
in Kansas,
Mhm.
after spending 1 year at a church college down near Salina. No, it's not anywhere. She graduated from Fort Hays, and she took a job teaching, and eventually ended up I'm not sure where she taught, but she took a job. After that, she took a job teaching with the United States Army Air Force
Oh.
schools in Europe.
Oh.
One near an Air Force base near London, and then she taught at a school in Switzerland near Grenoble. So she came back to the States and ended up teaching at Northeast High.
Okay.
And one of the grad students in Holtzclaw's laboratory, named Dick Linfett, who became chairman of someplace in Michigan, eventually, his wife was teaching art at Northeast. And through that connection, they set Norma and me up for a blind date. Norma was assigned as a faculty member to monitor the senior prom at Northeast.
Mm.
So I was her date for the senior prom.
And the rest is history.
Yeah, we got married in 1967.
Mm.
We had our first child in 69, and at that time, Norma had to quit because you couldn't be, well, she had to quit before she had a child because she couldn't be pregnant and
Mm.
teach.
Mm.
Nobody could stand in front of a classroom and admit that people got pregnant.
Didn't want to give the kids ideas.
No. So then 2 years later, had our son, Joe.
Mm-hmm.
We have this table set here, and you can see the plates and glasses.
Yeah.
We try to have a meal every Sunday together
Mm-hmm.
with whoever can come, and they bring whatever they can, and we try to do some coordination so there's somewhat of a semblance of a balanced meal and dessert and so forth.
Mm-hmm.
So we stay pretty good together. And then our daughter loves the Minnesota Lake Cottage that I sort of inherited, or we actually bought it from my parents, but because they needed the money because they lost their home in a big flood up there.
Mm.
So we're still planning to go up there this summer, and she loves it up there. But she can only stay, a couple months, then she has to get back to work. So
because the roads aren't really maintained, right?
the roads are. It's Interstate 29 most of the way. From Omaha up to past Fargo.
Okay.
And then a little bit to the east.
How about before retirement? What did you do for relaxation or entertainment?
Well, I always have liked music, and I used to play things like instruments, but that was a long time ago. When I had my, I can't drive because I have vision loss from my nose over to here.
Oh, wow.
Not because of an eye problem, but because of the optic nerve problem. I had a bleed on my optic nerve, which caused me to have vision loss, which is why I can't drive. And also, it's very difficult for me to read music and do keyboard stuff. So I gave up piano, and I used to play the piano and even tried to play organ a little bit. And I played a brass instrument in high school band, and I played a string instrument in high school orchestra, and that kind of thing. So, and I like music, but I like to listen to music. Don't do much anymore of any of that.
And so since you've retired, how do you spend your time?
I do a lot of reading. I do a terrific amount of watching news on television, even though it depresses me mostly. I'm not writing any memoirs or anything like that. I used to do a little bit of work helping with things like food, and I used to bake bread around Christmas time a lot. Not anymore. Still got the bread maker over there, but I don't do that much anymore. I like cookies. So I used to make cookies now and then, but it's easier to buy them.
Sure. Is there anything else? I think we covered everything.
I can't think of anything else.
All right. Well, thank you very much for telling me your stories.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.